Welcome back on The Pursuit of Wealth, everybody. It's Rod with Pow Group, and today is Thursday, November 6th. Hope you're doing well. With me again today is Paul Duffy, CEO of AIML Innovations, and we've also got Sheldon Imontosh, who's no stranger to the show, CEO of 3D Capital. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good to be here.
Thanks for having us, Rod. Great to see you again.
Great to have you back on. And how are things? I know it's been about 7 months. We went through sort of some of your background, your professional career, a little bit of an introduction to AIML. So we won't dwell on that here. If anybody hasn't seen that, you can check out the original interview. It's been, like I said, about 7 months since we spoke last. So what's been going on? Can you give us an update on the front lines?
I'm absolutely happy to. I mean, Sheldon, jump in whenever you want here. But yeah, let me take you through a little bit of what has occurred since we last talked, which I believe was basically earlier this year around May. Yep. In our world, that's probably about 7-8 months. I would say 3-4 iterations. It's just in AI terms, right? In AI timeline, a lot's been happening. So you'll probably notice, and for those that follow us with our, the Pulse, our little monthly email newsletter, that went out, I believe, this morning. If you haven't got it, I would highly encourage you to kind of subscribe because there's just so much happening. So basically back in May, Rod, we had just come through a cycle with our IP legal firm, essentially putting together that plank I was talking about around the intellectual property. And so for your viewers, just to recap, within AIML, we have a business called the NeuroCloud. You can see the website, theneuroCloud.com, where we have invented and now basically patented a form of labeling a ECG. This is an electrocardiogram, basically a 1, 3, or 12 lead signal, where we can take that signal and actually label it to a degree of specificity that it is really not available today in the market. And the reason that is of use is when you look at signals, particularly around your heart, people are looking at heartbeats, so they call it peak to peak. What we do, we actually go right into the heartbeat, crack it open, and we find the beginning and the end, so the onset and the offset of what is called the P wave, the QRS, which is a complex. It's actually 3 waves in the middle of the heartbeat, the juiciest part of the heartbeat, and then at the close of the heartbeat, the T wave, the start and stop. This is somewhat foundational because what we're able to do is to take that signal with those data points and actually extract it into, for lack of a better term, a glorified Excel spreadsheet. So if you can imagine, you open up a worksheet in Excel, you can see row by row your heartbeat, you can see the start of your P wave, the stop of your P wave, the start of your QRS, the stop of that, and the start of your T wave and the stop of that. Big deal, right? Well, if you do that for 30 seconds, you might get 30 rows. If you wear something like a 1 lead or a 3 lead or a 12 lead Holter device, and you wear that for 24 hours, well, you're going to get 100,000 rows in that spreadsheet. And more importantly, if you wear it for a week to a month, you're going to get millions. Now, this is substantial because the technology is so good. If you recall, I said it measures at a level of specificity that is currently not available. So imagine having your own Excel spreadsheet of all that data. What we do next, and this is where it gets exciting, is we take a time series analysis of that data, and based on the output of that time series, we're able to find almost all the known anomalies and conditions around cardiovascular disease. And this is transformative because we can take these relatively low cost, in fact, some of these guys you can buy right off of Amazon, which is like a Polar device, and you can run our neural net using their devices, and you can get probably the most comprehensive capture around the ECG of your heart that's ever been available before. So we took that output, and since May, we began to develop a product called CardioYield, which we sat down with a number of electrophysiologists and cardiologists, people that have clinics that you go and get Holters on, and we did a time study analysis to say if we were to take the quality signal in and redesign the workflow to get the Holter report out, would we be able to build efficiencies? In other words, would we be able to make it quicker, cheaper, and better than what is currently available today? And so, Rod, where we stand today is with a resounding yes, you guys have done it. Now let's get into market with it. And so from May till now, we have been advancing our neural net. We have been advancing our product, which we call CardioYield. And we even have a tool within Cardio Yield called Insight 360 that allows consumer wearable devices to get the same level of specificity and output. We believe that will crack open an entirely new market, which we refer to as the scientific wellness market. So think, not your wristband from one of the, known wearable brands, but you're going all the way over to this area where science is driving the quality of the ECG and the reading. So for performance athletes and others, this is going to be an entirely new horizon for them. So where we sit today is we've got a great technology in Max Yield. We've got a phenomenal product that is currently going through its regulatory paces. We're actively in submissions with Health Canada, with FDA in the US, even though with the shutdown of the government, it's a little bumpy, but we're still actively involved. And we've got Caribbean partners who have now come on board, which we're happy to announce we're working with them to go through their regulatory compliance. Because the ability for us to bring these low-cost, high-yield, single-lead ECG devices into the market is transformative for countries that don't have first-world healthcare systems. So we view the countries in Jamaica, for instance, as one of those battlegrounds that we've just launched into. Fortunately, they've gone through a bit of a hurricane scenario, so I wouldn't say we're so much delayed there. We'll still go through the regulatory part of it, but we won't really begin the rollout until the January once they've rebuilt.
Okay,
so that's
cool.
a bit of background on where we're at currently. As we go through the back end rod of Q4 and into the first half of next year, our expectation is that we will continue with the commercialization planks that we've been on. For those that do get our newsletter, you'll notice we've had 4 or 5 very significant announcements with the announcements of our parties in Jamaica, Toronto Health Center here in Toronto Heart Center, here in Toronto. There's another group of 12 clinics across Ontario and BC that asked not to be named, but they are cardio clinic using our technology as well. And we've got several others that have lined up and they're entering the pilot phases with us. These are groups that are excited about our technology because it's proven, and they're waiting for us to complete the Health Canada cycle so they can use our technology to get the reimbursement codes that they would require to push out the Holter reports. So that's a big deal for us on this side.
Okay, great. Thank you for that, Paul. And
You're welcome.
that was actually one of my next question. So you segued into that perfectly with regards to regulatory. Has there been any setbacks, if you will, or has everything sort of been progressing as you would expected?
It's actually going really well. I'll explain. When you start the regulatory pathway, you always bring in a few consultants and talk to this, do that, right? And what you quickly come to realize is, and in Toronto, believe it or not, I'm sure Canada at large, but we're here in Toronto, is a perfect microcosm of this. There are a lot of highly qualified resources who have built software as a medical device regulatory applications for both Health Canada and the FDA. And as we got deeper into the process, we realized this was going to become pretty much an always on part of our business. So we've actually hired 2 full-time regulatory and quality management affairs people who do nothing but steer us through the regulatory pathway. So what we are currently involved in is our algorithm clearances, which is the Max Yield, so that every device that is already cleared in FDA and Health Canada can license Max Yield and use it downstream to exploit their Holters. Because the signal quality is incredible, the throughput gain is undeniable, and when it comes to either moving people through more cost effectively, or in the case of the United States where it's more of a cash discussion, it's able to really lift up the margin, if you would, in the process. We feel that having the algorithm cleared is going to be a very strong enabler for us as we go commercial. The product I described earlier called Cardio Yield, it too is going through regulatory. So our anticipation is that we will have the algo done through Q1 and Cardio Yield quickly after, I'll call March to into the April timeframe. So say early Q2, first half of Q2. I kind of broad stroke everything with first half of next year, just because it's the FDA and there's nobody working there at the moment. I mean, they're working there, but it's limited and choppy.
Minimal,
but the benefit of having people on staff full time is they work with these people, so they've got the direct connects, right? Everybody knows what's happening. Here in Canada, where we're at, it's the same thing, just a little bit more accelerated. We will put our algorithm through the Health Canada paces. There's a few other, I'll call them components like MDSAP and others that are needed in Canada, all of which are in flight right now. And we're anticipating as we go through Q1, we'll see Health Canada approvals also. The reason I wanted to institutionalize the knowledge, bring it in full time, Rod, is that we don't stop. Once we've got regulatory for the algorithm, regulatory for our app, or not our app, but our application, Cardio Yield, we will begin to work with parties who have devices that would also like to go through that similar pipeline using our algorithm and using our software. So we believe that this will actually become not just a cost center to get regulatory, but potentially a P&L for us to bring other devices into the ecosystem using our technology. That's got us pretty excited, but that is a latter part of 2026, early 27 effort.
Gotcha. Well, it sounds like there's a lot of updates coming, and we'll have to have you on again in 6 months' time or so whenever we have some updates. Absolutely. And then, just to remind everybody as well, right? You're licensing the intellectual property, right? The algorithm, the software. You're not creating devices, so you're device agnostic, right?
Yeah.
Could you just maybe speak to that
For sure.
real quick?
Sure. Yeah. So, for your viewers, I hope this doesn't sound too, esoteric, but think of our algorithm as living in that choke point between signal capture and signal exploit. So in other words, if there is a actual lead on your body, it is going to capture a signal, okay, from your heart, a heartbeat, literally, an electrical waveform. And then we are going to take that and use max yield to extract from that signal the maximum amount of diagnostic yield possible so that it can be exploited through a variety of different systems. Now, these systems could be in a hospital, they could be in a clinic, they could be on your smartphone, there could be any downstream application that wanted to use that diagnostic yield in their application. So we want that algorithm to own the choke point, the toll gate between signal capture and exploit. And so, Rod, the way we do that is we license it. We license it into existing incumbent systems, or you can use our API and you can just pay as you go, one wonderful heartbeat at a time. And we're doing it both ways right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So it's fairly ubiquitous, and
Yeah.
and like in terms of ease of use, I guess, and these platforms, is it fairly well streamlined that a person can go on there, read it themselves, and then it's broken down in sort of layman's terms so that the average Joe and Jane can understand it?
It is actually. So in our Insight 360 product, not only are you able to co-construct and build whatever sort of report or view of your heartbeat that you would like, and it's comprehensive. There's well over 100 different data points that are presented out of it.
Yeah, you don't have to be a physician or something like that to.
No, you can literally for the scientific wellness market, where it's quote unregulated, you literally click our chat bot and you ask it, hey, so what's going on with my heart today? And it literally comes back and it uses your data and delivers to you in whatever level of knowledge you would like delivered, from a layman all the way through to an electrophysiologist. It will language it whichever way you want. And then you can have a nice natural dialogue with it. It is literally a large language model tiered to your data.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it is. Awesome.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of potential. We discussed, on the last time that we had you on as well, about how AI is kind of even picking up on different ailments before even doctors are. So, uploading to ChatGPT different blood results, etc. So, we're at that kind of once in a generational opportunity, once in a generation, where we see this kind of proliferation of this technology, right?
Yeah, we believe, and it's not just say Sheldon and I. This is coming from our advisory boards, from outside parties, from the companies that we speak to, which I can tell you are effectively the household names in this industry, cardiovascular diagnostics.
Yeah.
That the fact that we can identify a P wave and the duration, the time of the QRS, and then of course the T wave, This is foundational when it comes to understanding ECGs, which is a technology that has been around well over 60 years, has not had any significant breakthroughs to it. I mean, that
Disruption. Yeah.
waveform everybody's familiar with. It's almost become an icon, right? When you see it, in fact, they describe a heartbeat using one of those silly things, right?
Yeah.
You know, think of this watershed moment where that has been demystified and put into a glorified spreadsheet. And then all the downstream uses of that in an application, in a report, in an AI discussion, all become that much more specific to you as an individual. And by doing it this way, not only are we reducing and greatly demonetizing the cost to do these, right? I mean, we're bringing it in at price points that are unbelievable. But more importantly, we're doing it in a way where we're democratizing it. We're making it available, demystifying it from the context of the, the regulatory realm, which frankly, we work in that and it needs to be regulated because there's a lot of this stuff is quite, specific to the state of your health. But in the general wellness or the scientific wellness community, it's also a game changer because now once you understand what you're looking at, you can pulse on it very quickly and get that data and get it at a level that has never been available before.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. Well, that's great. And with regards to like contracts and things like that, like obviously you probably got some NDAs that you can't disclose too much. But is there any like major player that you're in discussions with at the moment? Is there any insight that you can give into any particular?
Yeah,
names?
happy to nibble around that. There's names I can't name, but they're significant and people know who they are in the space. I would say pretty much every major company that is in the world of regulated cardiology diagnostics are speaking to us, looking at both evaluating as well as partnering.
Okay.
And then on the wellness side, which is unregulated, there's probably, I'll call it there's two major brands. Everybody knows who they are. And we speak directly with them. And interestingly, it's in ECG and other sensor types because they love the neuralization, the technique that we have there, which is again patented. And then there's all the other sort of knock-on or follow-on groups. People know them as the Whoops, the Auras, et cetera, of the world, the Fitbits, all excited about what to do with ECG. What I would say is the single lead ECG is really not a prevalent wearable today in the context of a consumer wellness device. But I am telling you within 12, 24, and 36 months, it will be everywhere. You will have chest straps, you will have clothing.
Okay.
These things are very low cost. The form factor is incredible. They work across male, female, multi-ethnic. There's no concern about skin color, et cetera, which are all issues that plague the current consumer wearable market. We've removed all of those barriers and you get the maximum diagnostic yield possible from that signal. Whether it's a 5-second signal or a 5-day signal, you can't compete. And so I believe, Rod, we're in a very unique position to really start at the bottom as that market grows. And folks out there, anybody that follows performance athletes, first responders, and others, people that like to quantify themselves, all know that the wearables that are available today, which use the PPG light signature, are going to rotate away and start using the ECG biometric measurement because it's the most authentic and the most accurate for their heartbeat. So if you're zone training, if you've got sleep apnea, if you're trying to find your heart rate, this is the gold standard for all of that.
Perfect.
Yeah,
And the wearable industry has just been absolutely exploding. I've been following it for about a decade now. Have you seen any trends starting to slow, or has everything just been up and to the right essentially?
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. I mean, what they're doing now is, they're rotating through products, right? So, you get version whatever of this watch and, you usually buy the next 2 versions up because the current 2 are, that's all happening. The chest strap's starting to explode. You're starting to see people with bands. We're talking to groups that have armband. Rod, I don't think it's more than a year before you got wearables all over your body that you could literally point to. You may not walk down the street doing that, but maybe by 27, 28 you will. But it's coming. And even the earphones, they've got little PPG and little sensors in them as well. So Yeah, I think it's only getting started. It's an interesting statistic. Hospitals and data privacy, we see this on the regulated side. There's significant concern about making sure that, your data is secure, and rightly so. I mean, it's your health data, right? What nobody pays attention to is you're 10xing your data outputs off of things like your smartphone and your wearables that are significantly more robust than what you're basically keeping in your electronic medical record. So I almost find it kind of, I don't want to call it comical, but it's a quite interesting contrast, right, between that. And I think it's that free flow of the data in the wearable market that is really helping to evolve the use of it.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're seeing wearables in every, like even in the crypto space, right? You've got all these hardware wallets. They've got rings and necklaces and NFTs. I've seen, there's different bands and whatnot putting like a little chip in a shirt, so you can sell a shirt with a.
That's right.
So you've got a wearable technology in clothing now. So that's where the puck is heading for sure.
Yeah, totally right. And so we have folks that talk to us about quote rings, right? So they're a ring manufacturer. And then you got, the watch dudes, and then you got the chess dudes, and they're all talking to each other about how can my signal coexist with your signal. And so there's just a lot of fun happening there, because what we do that nobody else can do is we provide the neural network that consists of, quote, the ground truth of your heartbeat. We don't measure the peak to peak. You know how you hold your pulse or you watch your watch, you go to-do. That is a peak to peak measurement. What we actually do is we crack open the heartbeat, and in the same time frame, we find the start and stop of the P wave, the start and stop of the QRS, and the T wave. So you've got these 6 really relevant data points, not just a heartbeat, to use to create your ground truth. So if there are other signals that want to align or clock sync, we become the actual metronome, the key signal in all the signature. That's why I believe we've got a long and enduring opportunity in front of us.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's exciting. I'm full disclosure, I'm a shareholder now. I did take a position, so just so everybody, not financial advice, of course, for everybody at home, but full disclosure, and we have probably your biggest investor here with us as well, Mr. Sheldon Imwintash, and CEO of 3D Capital, also no stranger to the show. What can you tell us about AIML and everything that's been going on recently and from a capital perspective?
Yeah, sure. The reason that we kind of reached out in a way for this update is because the timing is sort of now. We were, like any company that makes an invention, there's a period of time where you look at your IP, you look at the marketplace, you develop your product to be more on a commercial basis. That is basically now behind us. I think the company is going to have encouraging news in the near future about its IP. And so it has basically, we believe, a major invention position. When you look at companies that want to do business with you who are substantial, they want to know that, no one's going to leapfrog you in a minute. So that it all comes down really to that core value. And now the company, as you can see, it's been starting to put out news on a weekly basis. Paul here tells me it's going to continue. So the different milestones, and I think there's going to be some depth and breadth to those types of partnerships and customers and use cases. And so it's going to become much more newsy, which, for, being a public company that trades, you need to develop you have to create your eyeballs, develop them, inform them. So when you hit milestones, people can respond to it. So, this company has made tremendous strides in the last, I'll call it 15 months. And I know that they've been meeting with some Fortune companies that are amazed at the development in that short period of time. So in this whole world of AI, cycles are changing. No longer going to be 5 years and you can take your time. You have to make your decision today. And it's funny, I posted something today on 3D that, it wasn't a press release, but is one of our companies called Hypercycle that has created the Internet of AI. And it is going to basically be the backbone for all AIs to become smarter. And if you're not becoming smarter, you're becoming obsolete. So things are moving at such a rapid pace. I think AIML will participate in that whole ecosystem, especially as it relates around data that these health providers have, but it's not robust data, it's dead data. But now if AIML can take it, and we call it neuralizing, making it much more robust in terms of insights, and then taking that data and through the Internet of AI, making it communicate with other databases to look at further insights and novel pieces of information that can be useful in drug discovery and diagnosis, saving people's lives. So I believe AIML is kind of at the forefront. This has been developed, this technology, over 4 years on a supercomputer in Edmonton at the University of Alberta. So it's not like something that just, some guy came up with an idea. This has evolved. And I think that the timing now for this massive explosion in AI relevance, the language of AI, is just hugely timely. And so, we're talking about AIML today because, to me, it's a strong candidate of a company that could become a unicorn.
For sure. And I just subscribe. I know you said you have a lot of updates coming, so I subscribe to the newsletter. I'm looking forward to those updates. And just to touch on, having a competitive advantage, obviously a huge moat is a massive benefit. And you touched on data as well, and maybe this is a two-part question for yourself and Paul. But what about like the sensitivity of the data? Is there any kind of concern there looming, or is there a way that you could utilize, say, blockchain technology to sort of protect that data to a higher level?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, Rod. So, the first answer is absolutely yes. You can, essentially protect, encode, take the data itself and even turn it anonymous if you want, which is technically what we do. When we take in the data, we strip out header information, et cetera, et cetera. We run it through our neural net, we bring it back, and then all you get is an attachment to your data set. Typically now I'm talking about something that's in the regulatory world because there's a whole series of requirements there, right? HIPAA and others. So all of that we're perfectly fine with. In what we refer to as the scientific wellness market, essentially there you can do the same thing. You can anonymize, you can protect, you can put all forms of security around that. What is really interesting and what we like about what Sheldon just spoke of there is the Internet of AI is super transformative now, because now what you've got are these AI agents in the background picking up this anonymized data and then harvesting it at a level that's never been done before and at a speed that has never occurred before. Because remember, these are computers talking to computers, AIs talking to AIs, not an electrophysiologist getting time in their schedule 3 weeks from now for 15 minutes to look at the data, which is what's going on the planet right now. Okay. So
a lot of the times there's these things are, between life and death, you don't really have a lot of time too, right? So
you got it. And, we even have cardiologists that, literally they sit in a pool and they get emails and they have general, levels of alertness and response times for that same reason. And, this is actually an industry. People work in that, cardiologists work in that space. What Sheldon's talking about, which we believe will be, you take us what we're doing today to a 60-year-old industry of the ECG and the entire industrial complex around cardiovascular diagnostic. What we do is we believe we're going to force multiply access, throughput, et cetera. What the group Hypercycle and the Internet of AI will do is they will take what we've done and actually force multiply that. And so now you've got this, logarithmic exponential growth happening as a direct result. And this is where the breakthroughs that we're seeing today, which are jaw-dropping, are going to become and almost seem like magic in the future. You know what I mean? Like it's just, and I'm not just saying, I mean, we have, Sheldon, we've spoken with our EPs, our electrophysiologists, our cardiology, et cetera, about this. They're just aghast at how can we try that? When can we do that? You know, because they see it. Because these are folks that have spent the better part of their entire lives helping humans with cardiovascular disease. And
Mhm.
access to data, access to quantifying the data has been their mission, their life mission, to help people who are suffering from a cardiac or are imminent to a heart attack or stroke or post recovery, right? So
Right.
giving them these types of tools, it's, it's a must do. And so we think we're going to see an awful lot of that in the coming months.
Yeah.
And certainly as we go through the 2026 timeframe, that would be a talk track. I think, Rod, would be super interesting, not just from 3D and AIML's point of view, but, for your viewing audience. That is something to pay attention to. It is going to be significant.
100%. Yeah, no, it's an amazing technology, and like you said, hasn't been disrupted in 60
Ages.
years. And yeah, it's
I mean, brought Windows out. The Windows 3.1 was the big invention.
well, wow. Yeah, that's before my time for sure.
Yeah.
No, that's I love these companies that you're really you're building a business, but at the same time you're transforming an industry and bringing something to the people that is highly needed and beneficial, right? And kudos
Yeah,
to
I
you
mean,
and the team.
yeah, I think without a doubt, I'll just speak selfishly on AML. What 3D and the group have been able to do as we've built, funded, and grown the company, right, is really help us realize the commercial value of the technology. So, that we will see evidence as we go through 26, certainly as we clear gates around clearance requirements, et cetera. But the social impact that this technology will have, I think, will go largely unmeasured
Hmm.
because we will simply step in and people will just realize, you know what? We can make this ubiquitous. We can democratize it. We can run it across countries. We can do it at human
Yeah.
scale, and we can help solve literally what is the world's number one problem around healthcare, cardiovascular disease. And we'll play a small but super important part in that journey in making it available at a human scale level. So I feel we're on a very strong commercial as well as a very strong social track here for impact, which is great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I love following companies that are sort of making a dent in the universe, if you
Yeah.
will. And I don't take it lightly whenever a company approaches me, and I really like getting behind projects that have a lot of potential, and they're not just here to looking at people like dollar signs. So I love the fact that you have such a breakthrough type of technology, and that you're really helping people at the same time. And it's been great getting to know you and following the story. And
Great.
like I said, subscribe to the newsletter, so I'll be a little bit more in the know, if you will. And I encourage everybody else to do the same. Listen, I know you're busy. Is there anything, perhaps, if you would like to close it out, or Sheldon, anything you'd like to leave the audience with here today as we close it out?
Well, I'll just, I'll say a few and then I'll hand over to Sheldon. I think, we will become a lot more vocal and visible around the trajectory and growth of our business. To Sheldon's point, the better part of 15 months have been heads down, butt up on getting the technology, the IP, the regulatory, the team, the capital base, all of the bits and pieces that you need, the formative planks down so that we can stand on them and really scale the business. We began direct outreach in Q3, so that's July, August, September, and you're seeing evidence now in our news announcements, the closing of these pilots, which lead through to full-blown programs, commercialization. And we're doing, our pipeline is very strong, it's growing. We're anticipating announcements weekly. If we miss a week, you'll see 2 the week after. Certain things are out of our control around that, but the commercialization of the business has begun. So we're super excited about that. And, as its biggest cheerleader, you'll probably see me standing from the top of the trees espousing how wonderful it is. And so, Rod, I'm hoping you'll hear more from us, in the coming weeks, if not the coming quarters. So thanks for your time today.
You bet.
Yeah, no, listen, there's a reason that I wanted AIML to be featured as a 3D investment company we've continued to support. there's a convergence going on right now around AI as a platform and now real use cases, not sort of just anecdotal ones. There's lots of great things and you're going, oh, that's great. Oh, I can do this and that, but you know, where's the value proposition? And we believe that this is fundamental. And even as Paul mentioned, we have a number of cardiologists, leading cardiologists in the world, that are almost an extension of our team now because they recognize the buoyancy and the validation and the value of really what they're seeing. Now we're just got to convert it into the customer side. And so we think that the timing is ideal, and 2026 is going to be a real, strong year of growth, I believe, for AIML.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, I think 2026 is going to be great for small caps in general too. And yeah, it's an exciting time. And I thank you very much for your time, gentlemen. Thank you very much, Paul. Thank you very much, Sheldon. And if to anybody who hasn't checked out the previous interviews, I highly encourage you to do that. And I've also had interviews with Sheldon specifically pertaining to 3D. So if that interests you, make sure to check that out. And thank you very much, gentlemen. And we'll have to have you on it again in a quarter or two once we have some additional updates.
Thank you, Rod.
Happy to. Wonderful. Thanks, Rod. Have a wonderful
My pleasure.
day.
You as well. Take care.
All right. Take care.